Hi there, welcome to the 17th Annual Damn Short Film Festival. I am Lee Lanier, one of the co-founders and also one of the programmers. We're up to Sci-fi A, Dangerous Machines. We do have one filmmaker that's scheduled for this Q&A, but he's not checked in yet. So we're going to give him a few minutes to get online. So please check back and I'll let you know when the Q&A starts in a moment. Hi there, we're back. We're ready to start our Q&A for Sci-fi A. We have our filmmaker. Let's bring him in.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. How are you doing? Thank you for joining us. This is
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be with you.
very good. Would you like to introduce yourself to our audience and let them know which film you worked on and what your role was?
Okay, I'm Olivier Perrier. I'm the director of Punch It, which is a sci-fi movie, and we shot this movie 2 years ago. And I'm glad to be part of this festival. It's crazy.
Well, welcome again. Yeah, it's a strange year with the pandemic and the fact we had to go virtual. You're the only speaker that could join us for this particular Q&A, so we're going to make it a little bit shorter. Normally we talk 45 minutes. We'll make it about a half hour today.
Okay.
So for those who might not have seen it yet, Punch It is, like you said, a sci-fi film. And the title refers to a amusement park punching bag game. And one thing I liked about this film, because I programmed the sci-fi myself, is the fact that it was very unique and original. And it's very difficult to do when there's so many people making short films. I know we've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of short films, and to come across something that has original script is a little bit rare. So can you talk about where the inspiration came for your film?
Yeah, it's crazy because it's a bit unusual, because for this movie, the first ideas I had were visual ideas, and I had this idea of a punch machine at the top of a dune in a desert. That was the first idea I had for this movie. And after I created a world around this idea, I created characters around this idea and a story and a structure. But the first idea was very visual and very surrealistic. I don't know if it's a good word in English.
That's a perfect word to describe it.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that how you normally approach your filmmaking? Does it start visually for you?
Not. Yeah. In fact, that was my second short movie, and for this one, it's very, the one of the first goal was to tell a sci-fi story, but in a way, in a kind of old-fashioned way, because I'm a big fan of Twilight Zone and this show from the 50s, and in France it was when I was a kid, I watched this show because it was already old, of course, but it was on the broadcast and in France, and it was very even if it was an old show, it was very interesting because it was pure storytelling, and without VFX, of course, without special effects. And I wanted to tell a story like that, with a kind of a certain mood, and without VFX, just with a real landscape, and in fact, that's why we used a certain kind of lenses on the camera from the 60s and 70s to have this filmic, kind of image, So yes, that was the main goal, to tell a sci-fi story, but in old-fashioned way.
That's very interesting. What's your opinion about the current state of sci-fi in terms of feature films or other short films? There seems to be such a reliance on visual effects that people forget about the story.
Yeah, it depends. If you see, for instance, the work of James Cameron, he's a real author, and he used VFX and the story too. And when you're making a movie, the most important thing is telling a story, and the VFX can be a very useful tool. If you have to describe the future, for instance, you have to use VFX. It's very difficult to not use VFX. But if you don't have a story and you have a great VFX and a great, you lose something, and the audience, yes, will be maybe amazed by the quality of the VFX, but without they won't remember the movie, and they won't remember the story.
You're
so
right.
The most important is always the story. When you make a movie, this is the story first.
Well, that's very good to hear. The reason I asked that is because I've been a visual effects artist for many years, so I've worked in the industry, and I've seen the computer animations and I love it, but just used too much. So one thing we always try to put a importance on here at this festival is getting back to the stories and characters. So what part of France are you located?
Sorry?
Where do you live?
In Montpellier, in south of France.
And where did you shoot the film?
In fact, we shot a part of the movie in Montpellier, and a part of the movie in I don't know if it's not far away from Marseille. And that was very interesting because there are a lot of dune and a lot of it's a big beach, and but unfortunately, we, as you can see in the movie, we shot exclusively outside, and and of course we had a lot of problems with weather, and when we were scouting, the beach was empty and without water, and the first day of the shooting there were a violent storm, and so there were a lot of water on the beach, and so but we used the same location, and we shot on this beach. But that's the risk, when you are shooting a movie outside, and you have to deal with the weather, of course.
Now, what's interesting about film festivals is they're very international. You get to meet filmmakers from all over the world. So maybe if you could talk about some advantages and disadvantages to being a filmmaker in France, because every country is a little bit different. Some countries have film boards or lotteries for film funding. Some don't. Like here, we're pretty much on our own. So maybe speak about what you like and maybe what's a little bit frustrating about being a filmmaker in France.
I would say being to be honest, I'm a filmmaker for now 6 years. So I began cinema quite lately, and Punch was financed, I would say, 80% with private funds. But the next one has been bought by a TV channel, so the next one will be financed by 50% by a TV channel. So in France, if you want to make movies, you have to you have many ways. You have to ask money for the broadcast and the region, the where you live, and there are many ways to raise funds. So we are quite lucky in France for because there are many movies every year that are made, and it's very cool. But now as you say, as you know, with the COVID, it's a bit it's a bit harder than before. But I would say it's in France we are very keen with author movies, but we are not the same than in US, where in your culture you're used to have a lot of genre movies, sci-fi especially. And sci-fi in France is not very popular. In fact, it's very popular in the audience, in fact. But there are not a lot of sci-fi movies that are produced in France. It begins to change a bit because there is a new generation, and with a platform and Netflix and Amazon, and they want this kind of genre movies. And so the broadcast and the TV channels, the French TV channels, begin to promote this kind of movies. So it begins to change, but So in a way, it's always a fight to do a movie and to raise money. And in the short movies, you never have a lot of money to do it. It's always a problem. But you have to be creative, and you have to find money anyway to do a movie. And if you don't have any money, you write a script that doesn't need a lot of money. But if you want to do a movie, you do a movie. Especially now with the technology, it's very easy to find a good camera and a good way to do a movie. And before, in the 80s, in the 70s, and before, it was very complicated and very so no excuses.
Yeah, you're right. It's very democratic these days in terms of almost anyone can make a movie. But it's interesting. In the end, at the end of the day, you still have to figure out how to get it made the best you can with whatever resources you happen to have. So all the filmmakers are the same that way. So you said you began filmmaking relatively late. What were you doing up to the point you started making films?
Before?
Yes, before.
Before, yes, I was a lawyer. I was just was completely different, but I always made some movies. But it was in an amateur way, and that was my second pro film. Punch It is my second pro film, I would say. And I always loved cinema, and I always wanted to make movies. And I tried, and now it's my it's part of my my job, a good part of my life. But because the next one will be a sci-fi too, but more ambitious. So would be very important for me.
Well, that's great. It shows you it's never too late, right?
So with VFX. And the next one with a lot of VFX. Yeah.
Okay, well, that'll be fun too. What was I going to ask? Let's see. Oh, I just forgot my question. Oh, I know. You mentioned that you've always loved films for a long time. So, are there any particular inspirations, other genres, or other directors, particular movies have been inspiring?
In fact, of course, I'm inspired by the American directors from the 70s, especially the new Hollywood, and I'm from a generation who saw Star Wars. I was lucky enough to discover one of the Star Wars movie in theater, so that was crazy. But after growing up, I discovered the new wave, the French new wave, of course, because when you want to direct a movie, the French new wave, it shows you how to make a movie with little money, but and to create and to invent things. So it's very inspiring, of course. And I was at the beginning of the 90s, I was very inspired by David Lynch because I saw Twin Peaks on TV channel, and that was crazy. And I discovered, and David Lynch was a very strong reference for me, and a lot Sergio Leone. When I was a kid, I used to see all the spaghetti western, and 90s Tarantino was huge. Pulp Fiction was a great moment, and discover Pulp Fiction in theater. It was a good experience. Many filmmakers from, especially from the US, French, Italy, and I discovered later Asian cinema from Hong Kong, and that was a completely crazy the way they do movies, and they create camera movement that was completely insane. And Japanese cinema, so a lot of influences. But the problem is when you're making a movie and when you're a cinema geek, you have a lot of influences, but you have to forget it if you want to do very original. And even if you forget it, when you're making a movie and you do the edit, and you see a scene that reminds you a film, a very famous film, but you didn't know that when you shoot the movie, you do this scene. So it was unconscious, So you have a lot of references, of course, but you have to forget it and try to forget it when you're doing a movie.
That's a very interesting point. I think one thing we see again, because we watch so many films here, is even down to the editing. Sometimes you'll see the same editing style repeated over and over. For example, close-ups of people opening doors or doing whatever business they're doing, where it's quick cuts, or they start the film where the film goes off with the alarm clock beeping. Like, I can't tell you how many films we get every year with the same opening shot over and over again. And we're all influenced, but that's really interesting that you have to consciously be careful to avoid that. But I guess at the same time, you have to learn some of these really important basics from some of these filmmakers. Is there any part of cinema or original content or TV that's very exciting to you now? Do you see any new trends that you're very happy to see?
Yes, I've seen. In fact, that with the COVID, of course, all the theaters are closed, and that's a pity. So, as everybody, I'm watching TV a lot, but there are very interesting TV shows on Netflix and other platforms. And I discovered a show that I was not aware of, but it was very good. It was a Mozart in a jungle. I think it's on Amazon, and it takes place in New York, and in a classical music environment, and it's very original, yeah. And but I try to see all the old movies, especially the Tarkovsky movies that I didn't watch yet, and I want to watch Solaris, Stalker, this kind of movie, the sci-fi movie, but very specific and very original, very Russian. So
Do you? Well, there's for me, it's very exciting to see all this long form content where these very long story arcs and very slow pace is very interesting to me. The original content. Do you have interest in moving into longer form storytelling?
Sorry, I
Uh,
didn't hear that.
do you have interest in moving into longer form storytelling, like some of this original content series type work?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I think it's a completely different way to tell a story, to make
Mhm.
a series. And so I'm writing my script. So because in France, but in a short movie business. I don't know if it's a business, man. It's a short
Mhm.
movie world. You, of course, you're writing your script because you have no money, and
Mhm.
so you write your script. But I love to write, and to write a series it's a completely different way of writing. I think it's very hard
Mhm.
because but I never tried. I would say I I I wrote a feature film that I tried to finance and to raise money. And but it was a great pleasure. I was writing last year every every evening, and that was a real pleasure to write it. So you can develop, of course, the characters, the story, but it's always a question of time, like in a short movie. Short movie
Mhm.
is very good to begin with short movie because you go to the most important thing. You have 15 minutes, 10 minutes to tell a story, so you you avoid all the stuff that is that you can you can yeah, that is not important. And writing a feature film, you imagine that you will have more time, but not very, no, because you have half an hour or 1 hour, 2 hours to tell a story, and the story is bigger, and you have the same problem than in a short movie.
Mhm.
But maybe writing a series, yeah, it's a good way to create a world with to develop characters. And but the risk, and when I'm looking a lot of TV show, um, you know, the first the yeah, the first, the second, the third episode
Mhm.
are very good, and after sometimes there are some part of the story that you would like to be edited, you know.
Mhm.
So the risk is to tell, not to edit and not cut enough material in a
Mhm.
series. And sometimes you have one season, but you can tell the same story with 10 episodes, and you can tell the same story with 5 episodes, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah,
So that I think it's very hard.
yeah, you can see where that works sometimes, and sometimes doesn't work. I find a lot of series burn out in the second season, and if they
Mm,
last longer than 2 or 3 seasons, and it's very random, you can't. Every
yeah,
episode is just all over the place, probably because so many people have worked on it at that point.
yeah.
Um, since you got into filmmaking relatively late, do you have any advice you could give to people who are thinking about trying out their hand at filmmaking?
Oh, I don't know if I can give an advice because I'm a beginner, you know. Uh, no, yeah, I will say, as like Jean-Luc Godard says, if you want to do a movie, you take you rent a camera if you don't have enough money.
Mhm.
You try to write a story, and try to film it, and try to edit it, try to make some noise, music, and after you invite some friends and you show the movie and you ask them what they think about it. That's a start.
Yeah.
Now, as I said, no excuses. Everybody can make a movie, but very few have interesting things to tell.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. There's only so many stories or variations of how to tell the stories. So yeah,
Mm.
going back to the the discussion of editing, did you edit your own films, or did you have another?
Yeah, I tried to. In fact, I edited with an editor, but I pre-edit the movie. I don't know if it's a good term, but I begin the edit the
Mhm.
process of the movie because I like it,
Mhm.
and I have new ideas, and sometimes, but I work with another guy. Yeah.
Did you find it difficult to get perspective on your own material? In other words, to make those tough decisions about what to cut out or what to
Oh,
leave?
yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, for Punch It, I've shot a lot of things that are not in the movie,
Mhm.
and that's a mistake that I don't want to do again,
Mm.
because when you're writing, you have to, and you are the director of the movie, you have to think about uh, the final result, and you start to edit when you're writing.
Mm.
So yeah, but it's always difficult because sometimes you have a good scene, but you can't keep this scene because the movie doesn't work like that, or it's too long. I don't know, but I don't know. There are many reasons,
Mhm.
but the scene is okay, but it doesn't fit in the movie.
Mm.
So it's always difficult.
When you said you shot too much, was it just additional dialogue? Was it cutaways, establishing shots?
In
What?
fact, yeah, it was the beginning of the movie with the skater, and we shot a lot of things with the skate, um, which were pretty good, but it was too long. And the rhythm of the beginning of the movie, because there are no dialogue, and there are very few dialogues at the first part in the first part of the movie, and so it was too long, and it was not very necessary. So we decided to cut it.
All right. Well, that's good because a lot of short films are too long, even though they're short. So that's good to
Yes,
hear.
that's like, yeah, it's very yeah, it's a mistake because yeah, for the in a short movie you have to shoot the what is very important for the story.
Mhm. Okay. I think on that note, we're coming up to the 30-minute mark. So I think we'll cut it off here. And I want to thank you very much for joining us.
You're
And
welcome.
hope you have a chance to watch some of our films at our festival. And we hope to see some of your work in the future.
Yeah, I hope to.
Yes.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
It's going to fade out.